so much of success for anyone is being memorable and being unique and being a thought leader. If they said I had to post 1 photo a month and 3 story posts per month, I would post 6 in feed posts and I'd post 20 story posts. I would like massively over deliver because I wanted to be memorable. Again, I wanted to move the needle for them.
I'm Eric Hinman, co-owner of Urban Life Athletics in Syracuse, New York.
Eric, welcome to Meat Mafia Podcast.
Thanks for having me. Number 2 with you gents.
Well, this is actually the hat trick for you because we had you on at your place in Denver, which was like 50-ish. That was March of last year.
Yeah.
And then we had you at the Alt Health Summit too, where you were an amazing speaker. We released that as a podcast.
Oh, no way.
So
okay.
You're one of the very few people that are hat trick on the Meat Mafia podcast.
I am honored.
Yeah.
Honored.
Triple crown. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been so cool just to get to know you and build out the friendship with you over the last year. Now we've got you here in Austin. So it's been amazing. Hit some workouts, grill some steaks, learn more about you as a person. And we were thinking what could be really cool for this episode, because there's been a lot of information on your backstory, your transition from insurance to Ironmans to brand building and everything that you're doing now. We really view you as one of the most prolific brand builders in the health and wellness space. And this topic is so important because there's a big fight that we're up against right now with these, big food companies and these processed food companies. And, 70% of Americans are overweight or obese. And the statistic is that I think big food companies spend $1.6 billion a year. And over 90% of that marketing budget is for products targeted towards children that are high in sugar, refined seed oils, grains, et cetera. So being able to help these healthy brands build themselves out in a really sustainable way, that's such a valuable skill set for the space in general to be able to push the movement in the right direction. So we just wanted to do a little deep dive for you on brand building, and we'll dig into all of it.
Heck yeah. And how cool is it now that we all have a microphone and we can share our voice? Because historically that wasn't the case. It was whoever had the biggest budget, they buy the airwaves, they buy the billboards on the highways, they buy the TV rights. And now all of us have a microphone through podcasts and through social media and through newsletters. So I feel like it's changing where individually we can share our own stories of what is allowing us to thrive that is competing with the big guys who, they're marketing too, and they want to sell their products and they want to provide a return for their investors' money. So I get it. But, I think we all know that there is a better way to fuel yourself than trusting a lot of the marketing that's pitched at you from those larger companies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so crazy observing the observationally seeing how information is now being distributed in such a different way than it used to be. Just like, 30, 40 years ago, most people were just getting their information from the main airwaves. They would watch the news and get commercials thrown at them left and right. They would maybe read a magazine and see some ads. But now it's in the hands of people, just everyday people who can post stuff, grow a following, and then start to promote certain brands if they stick at it long enough. So it's really interesting to just observe this change happening and take part in it, because like people are looking for other people more like them and less like some authority to give them the information.
Agree. Yeah, I mean, it's cool having self-experimenters providing the information instead of, I'm not judging, but my assumption is that a lot of CEOs of these larger companies, their sole objective is to make themselves money, to make their employees money, and to make their shareholders money, rather than, doing something that allows them to thrive from a wellness standpoint. And for many of us in the wellness space, lifestyle athletes, pro athletes, like, what we put into our bodies is so important for our physical, mental, and emotional performance. So, allowing us to share like, hey, this is how I eat. This is the supplements I use. This is how I train. This is how I live my life. This is how I connect with people is really cool, so that people can learn from others that they want to emulate.
Definitely. And I think that's what also gives us hope in the future, because a lot of people talk about the downsides of social media, and I definitely agree that there are downsides. But if you do it right, there's this degree of transparency that's communicated from the content creator to the person that's viewing that content. And I look at someone like you, imagine someone that's followed you for 3 years. You've helped them get into good shape. You've detailed your diet, your training regimen, your workouts, et cetera. You've just added so much free value that you're saying, look, I'm a self-experimenter. These are the products that I'm using that have really helped me be beneficial. And then that person's like, well, I've trusted Eric. He's added so much value to my life for the last 2 to 3 years. Of course, I'm going to buy whatever he's recommending. So it just gives that trust and transparency. And I think that's a hopeful thing for everyone, because everyone has the ability to put out really good content and help push this movement forward too and build an audience.
For sure. And I think so much of it, like you said, is over time. I've put my life on display since 2010 now.
Yeah.
When I probably posted my first picture on Instagram. And, when stories came out, it really was just like a behind the scenes, like, hey, here's who I'm with each day. Here's who I'm having conversations with. Here are the conversations. Here's how I'm training. Here's what I'm eating. Here's what I'm supplementing with. Here's my bedtime routine. It's all out there. And the same is the case for everyone. There's so many people out there doing cool things, and each person has to find their own way, but I think all of us are kind of inspired by others that we want to be like. So it's cool that we can put so much out there. But I think the cautionary part of that is, be inspired, take some of these things, but ultimately apply it and do it. Like, am I tuning in some? Yeah, but not much. Most of what I'm doing is, I've figured out how to design, my individual perfect day, and I've figured out how to monetize a portion of my perfect day. And I'm happy, and I'm doing things where I feel fulfilled, where I feel like I'm giving value and getting value, and my friendships and relationships are strong. And, I think that's the point for others, is to like figure out how to design your days around all of those things that allow you to thrive and allow you to be the best version of yourself, and get inspired by social media, but, don't overconsume by any means. And don't compare either. I think that comparison is the thief of joy is a very popular quote, and I truly believe that when you're out there comparing too much, there's going to be jealousy that forms and other forms of emotional non-well-being. So I think get inspired, but ultimately like take what it is and try to apply it to your life to figure out how you can design your perfect day.
Definitely.
So 2010, you post your first Instagram picture or video. How long did it take you to really realize that there was a path forward for you in terms of this creator, I guess what we would call now creator, or just there was a path towards you making money, putting yourself out there in this way?
So I think 2012, 2013, I had a bike sponsor who they gave me a bike at cost, a really expensive triathlon bike. So that saved me a lot of money. That was probably the first aha moment. Maybe I had 5,000, 6,000 followers back then. And I thought that was pretty cool that, just because I had audience and awareness that, someone would be kind enough to give me a bike. And, back then too, I also thought of it more as like, I'm going to be at Kona and people are going to see me on this bike at Kona. So a lot of it back then still, I think, was more like in-person stuff, almost like putting a, sponsor on a triathlon kit or a sponsor on a race car. It was a combination of that and the online presence still back then. And then in 2014, 15, I started getting, paid small amounts to post pictures of content of brands whose products I was using. Yum Butter is one that comes to mind. I don't know if they're still in business or not, but it was a nut butter company, like these squeeze pouches. I think that was my first paid deal, maybe $100 to post a picture is what they paid me. And I was like, that's cool. $100 to post a picture. Done. I mean, I love this product. I love nut butter. I mean, at that time during triathlon, I was eating almost a jar of nut butter a night. So it was great just to get some free nut butter, because that shit ain't cheap.
And the $100 from a sponsor, you're like, I'm the richest man alive. Like just that feeling of
paid
making
to post a picture.
like that feeling of making that first dollar from a sponsor or a brand or something. It's such an amazing feeling.
Hey mom, I made it. So then the big aha moment was in 2016. Oakley invited me to spectate the Ironman World Championships. I wasn't competing anymore, but I was still dabbling in the sport. I was still like running a lot and biking a lot. I pretty much went cold turkey on swimming because I burned myself out. And that's when I realized that like big brands are getting into this game of, at that point, maybe I had 10,000, 11,000 followers, and they wanted me to promote and test these new sunglasses they were coming out with. So they invite me to Hawaii. I get to spend time with the Oakley executive team that was making these new sunglasses, and they invited like 4 other athletes out as well. And, that's when I really started thinking of it as I'm going to build a personal brand out of this. I want to learn photography. I mean, video wasn't even part of it at that point in 2016. So that hadn't crossed my mind yet. The video was going to be the next big thing on social media. But I bought a Fuji camera. I think was the first camera I bought, like an $800 digital camera, and just started learning about aperture and shutter speed and the depth of field and how to shoot a good photo and how to just have a creative eye with photography. So I started shooting higher quality photos and thinking more about the photos I was taking. And I started thinking more about how can I add value for my audience beyond just posting about, hey, here's the cool bike I have. And, here's how lean I got from running all the time. And here's all the copious amounts of food I'm eating now. So that's what 2016 was when it became intentional. I'm like, okay, I'm going to treat this like I've treated other businesses. I'm going to build a brand. I'm going to add value for my audience, and I'm going to add value for brands. And at that point, it still very much was getting paid to post pictures. Video wasn't a part of it yet. All of these online events weren't a part of it yet. All of the other consulting type things I do now were not a part of it back then. That's all evolved over time. But that was the defining moment where I kind of flipped that switch and started treating it like a brand and a business.
It's crazy to even think back to video not being a thing on Instagram back then, knowing how much of a huge portion of the platform it is now and how much value there is from the video content in general. One of the things I really liked about what you said, and I think our stories play off nicely because Instagram has been your mechanism for growth. Twitter has more so been our thing. So I love that you were saying when you saw the seriousness and the potential of the platform, you really invested in high quality camera, learning how to shoot photography really well, make these things as engaging as possible. That was similar to us writing threads because we said, hey, look, Twitter threads is a great pathway to grow, but we don't want to write threads like everyone else. So let's buy some writing courses. Let's really do a ton of research before we put out a piece of content. I think a lot of people probably just rush into it and start posting. And I guess if you're posting versus not posting, that's a good thing. But those little touches behind the scenes make such a big difference, and they really make you differentiate yourself as a creator, right?
100%. I mean, so much of success for anyone is being memorable and being unique and being a thought leader and being known for something. I mean, those are all things that are going to set you apart. And these are all things that I've incorporated into my brand. Our house in Colorado being set up as this social wellness house where we invite people over every single night to do contrast therapy, and we do product seeding. We have 10 people every single night. That compounds over time. Factor in 5 years, 365 days, 10 new people every single night. That's a lot of people that we're exposing to the health and wellness protocols that have allowed Sarah and I to thrive, and the brands that, we love and use. So I mean, that's the way we've differentiated ourselves. All of the in-person events that we do now is a way we've differentiated ourselves. So being memorable and just differentiating yourself more and more is going to create opportunities and success in anything that you do in life.
Yeah. And that's another thing about you is that there's kind of like, I feel like there's two ways that Eric differentiates himself. The one is obviously just the content that you put out on Instagram, but like we've seen this with Noble and just getting to know you behind the scenes when you're working with a brand, it's so much more than just the posting that you're doing. Like you are a master of connections, really genuine relationships too. And it's like you've created, like, that's like the second thing that you're really memorable for is like, hey, if you're a brand that's working with me, I'm going to plug you into my universe and I'm going to give you every opportunity to meet the best affiliates, the best people, someone that can help you with finances, with marketing, whatever. I'm just going to open up my Rolodex to you. And I think people really resonate with that. And you just add so much value to brands. Yeah.
I mean, you guys are masters at this too. I mean, you guys have connected me with so many wonderful people with, not looking for anything in return. And I mean, that's the same thing I've done for the last 15 years. And if you do that on a regular basis over a 15-year period, that's a lot of people that you meet. And, social capital is a massive thing. If you can connect with someone that can help someone get to where they want to go with just a quick text message, that's a powerful, powerful thing. So that's a network that I've built up over the years of just like saying yes a lot and adding, small amounts of value to a lot of people. Sarah and I were just having a conversation a few nights ago, and I'm getting super busy now. I'm getting to a point where I'm over capacity. We were talking about this before jumping on the podcast, and I need to start systematizing things and building out a bigger team. But I still continue to say yes a lot because I know that by occupying a very small piece of a lot of people's minds because I was generous to them, whether that's on social media, adding value, or, saying yes to a person who messages me on Instagram to come over and sauna, that comes back. That comes back in spades. So I've always been really generous with my time and giving value, because I like to do that. I like seeing other people thrive. But, I've been doing it long enough now to see how that does come back. So just being kind, saying yes, adding value where you can, do that for 15 years for a lot of people, and all of a sudden you'll become a magnet.
You mentioned the Fiji camera and like learning how to actually create photography and make the photos pop a little bit and building these skills that actually help your brand. And I think we can resonate with that too, where it's like, we didn't have any writing skills before we got on Twitter. We didn't know how to grow a social media following. So we've just been kind of like figuring all this stuff out. And I think it's a really great task for people to go through. It's like when you embark on an entrepreneurial endeavor, you have to just like pick stuff up and learn how to do it. But then there comes that point where you have to outsource certain things. And I just wonder with you, like the modern social media platforms, there's so many things you can outsource almost from the beginning if you have like enough money to outsource it. But how valuable was it for you to kind of like learn all these little things behind the scene just so that you have the context going forward when you do end up kind of outsourcing it to somebody else?
Yeah, I mean, I've done it all up until recently. I learned video editing and, I learned the photography skills, and writing it's been something I've always done. And, I talk a lot. I meet a lot of new people, and I go on a lot of podcasts, and that helps me hone my stories, and it helps me remember, because I very rarely dwell on the past. I'm usually like just executing in the present moment and not really even thinking about the future. I'm just kind of like doing me. So like meeting with lots of new people, it allows you to remember those things that got you where you are. So I love doing that, where I can tell a story of when I was 28 and drinking heavily and, here now where I sit at 43 and being in the best shape of my life. But otherwise, I wouldn't really think of that story. I'm not thinking back to 28. So, I really like that ability to communicate with others. That helps a ton with any kind of written content that I'm doing. But yeah, I mean, I learned it all on my own, just sets and reps, and now I'm starting to outsource some of the things like video editing. There's people who can do it way better than me now, as long as I give them the context, what I'm trying to achieve with it. Like someone else is much more skilled than I am at this point in editing the videos. I do it on Instagram Reels. I mean, I'm not all that savvy with it, but I know enough about how to create an engaging video and how important the hook is and how important it is to kind of think of an Instagram reel like a book. Like you want a title so that people know exactly what they're getting, and then you want chapters that you kind of walk them through within that 60-second reel or that 30-second reel. And for you guys, I'm sure Twitter is the same way. Something that draws them in and then kind of walks them through the thought that you're trying to get across. So yeah, just recently hired a firm that is going to start helping me with editing a lot of the videos. And that's to free up bandwidth to do things that only I can do and I can do best, which is in-person stuff. Just hosting more of these founders only retreats. I'm really interested in doing more curated events, just putting people together that all can add significant value for each other in a setting that allows them to do that. So I want to do more of those things. I want to host some big retreats, some larger things that allow people to bond and leave people with this memorable experience. And then I want to do more of these experience houses. It's been really fun setting up these hosting oases. And that kind of started with a gym that I co-designed, co-built, co-ran in upstate New York, and then some restaurants that I co-founded in upstate New York. Those were kind of those first two businesses for me that were in the hospitality space, where something that I co-created allowed people to have this memorable experience and nourish them and provide them with this workout win for the day. So that's so much of Sarah and my homes now, is we want to leave people with this massive win after they come and visit us. And we also want people to walk away with new friendships and new relationships. I love seeing things blossom, and you guys, I'm sure, are the same way. Love seeing things blossom from, a relationship that I helped cultivate, and seeing, opportunity for all of those people, in the future, where they come together and they form a business, or, I see them doing some cool event together. Like I get so much stoke from that.
Yeah, you're a friend collector, and I mean that in a super genuine way. And you're really good at mixing different groups of people that probably wouldn't otherwise have a chance to meet and facilitating that connection. And like what you're doing is you're driving serendipity for people, right? It's like, we met Josh from Human Improvement Powder. We met Jake. We've met so many people just in the sauna cold plunge that will lead to opportunities. Like met Dan from Create Gummies through you. So it's like all these things that come from that serendipity. And I think there's a certain magic to that. Something you said that I was interested in was the Kona experience where Oakley actually flew you out. I'm curious, when you had that experience, were you surprised at how much their executive team cared about your opinion about the sunglasses, your thoughts on marketing or anything like that? Did they seem like they were really leaning in and wanted to hear your opinion on those products?
100%. And that was also kind of my first lesson in what brands I wanted to work with. I want to work, Oakley is not the best example of this because they're a larger brand, but they were thoughtful. They did appreciate my feedback, and they took that back to their designers and implemented on the design. And now all of the brands I work with, I'm friends with the founders of the companies, and I want to feel valuable. I want to feel like I'm actually moving the needle for the companies I work with. So that's why typically I'm working with earlier stage wellness brands where I know I can offer the most value through my network, through these in-person community events, through the people I can introduce them to, through generating awareness, through my audience, and then all of my other friends who I seed product to. So yeah, I'm very intentional with who I do business with. I want to make sure they're going to be friends. Would I fly to Tokyo with them and have a flow state conversation for 24 hours? And can I massively move the needle for them? Is this going to be a long-term relationship?
You kind of come off like an everything advisor to a founder, I would imagine, because you're like, hey, you need fundraising help, I can do that. You need content, I can do that. Hey, you need help with marketing. All right, I connect you with the right paid ads agency. I think that's just a really good mindset to have with a client in general, is like, don't just pigeonhole yourself into one thing. If someone's paying you to do Twitter, have the fluency to be able to speak about all these different topics and just find different pockets of how you can help the founder or the brand in general.
Yeah, again, be memorable, and I've always leaned into that. I've always leaned into trying to do more than someone else in my position would do.
Yeah.
Because my resume is Instagram, that's what people are initially hiring me for. And then when we jump on that first call for an hour and they're like, whoa, we're getting all of this too, like that, they're going to name drop me. Yeah. So, that's the best way to do business is under promise and over deliver.
Yes.
And then you're going to get name dropped, and opportunity is just going to come knocking at your door. So, I'm fortunate that no longer do I really have to chase. I did have a chasing chapter of my life where I went door to door for 7 years selling insurance to campgrounds and marinas in my first business. But yeah, now I've been able to be memorable, be unique, and add a lot for a specific product market fit. I think that's important too, is like understanding where do you have the best product market fit. And, for me, that's early stage wellness brands, mainly in the CPG space. So, I don't really stray too far from that. I know like exactly who to work with and the offer I can deliver and, what my value is.
Yeah.
How has that offer evolved over time? Like, what was the initial offer that you had? Because it's whenever you're offering a service, I feel like you're not really sure, like you're still looking for product market fit, and so you're kind of like tiptoeing around, not fully confident, and now you've got it down pat. So for those early creators who might be listening, like what sort of advice do you have on that initial offer?
Yeah, so with anything you do in life, initially you're going to be throwing darts at a dartboard, and they're going to go all over the fucking place. They're going to be off to the right and too low and too high and too far to the left. And eventually you get like closer and closer to the bullseye as you figure out where you can add the most value and where you can be the most unique. So initially that started off for me like I was doing what every single other influencer would do. I was getting paid to post a picture and it was fairly transactionary. And then I thought it was cool, but I didn't really know how much value I was actually adding. And then it was really probably Ice Barrel where I really felt like I was moving the needle for them with the introductions I could make in the cold exposure space back in 2018, product seeding with my friends who I thought would be really influential in moving the needle for Ice Barrel. what I had learned in working with some other brands like 10,000 and helping them build their ambassador program of, how to pick ambassadors, like find people that are thought leaders, but also relatable, find people that are doing this on a regular basis that just want to yell from the rooftops about how great they feel after doing cold exposure. So with Ice Barrel, I started doing more consulting than just getting paid to post photos and videos. And I always over-delivered too. Like if they said I had to post 1 photo a month and 3 story posts per month, I would post 6 in feed posts and I'd post 20 story posts. I would like massively over-deliver because I wanted to be memorable. Again, I wanted to move the needle for them. So, with each brand, it really has evolved. I figured out like something new and unique that I could do for them that, maybe someone else couldn't. So, now a lot of what we're doing is like the in-person stuff. I'm doing events literally almost every single day at this point, whether it's community workouts, and I'm bringing 5 products to everybody who's doing that community workout with me every single night. I mean, we're hosting people at the house, 10 to 15 people to do contrast therapy. And with all of them, we're giving them these Muscle Mountain swag bags with all of the brands that Sarah and I work with. And it's evolved into like, I want to have regular conversations with the people I'm working with too. So I'm talking to them at least once a month. Some I'm talking to, once a week. And that way we're on each other's radar. So, I can be like, hey, Jacket Hive, like you got to meet the Meat Mafia guys. I just did a podcast with them today. Like they would be great for you to go on their podcast. So I like to be top of mind for the brands I'm working with, and I want them to be top of mind for me. So I'm going through the world kind of with this one lens on of like, I want to help these brands I work with. So I'm going to introduce them to everyone beneficial that I'm meeting as I go about my day-to-day. So raising money, that's a fairly new thing that I've been doing. I've always invested in these early stage wellness companies, but recently I partnered with a private equity friend, and we're starting to do some SPVs for the brands that we work with who have really good financials, have really good customer acquisition costs, and really good long-term customer value. So we're doing that, which obviously is incredibly valuable. And I've always introduced brands to investors. I've always said, like, for some of the brands I work with, if I never sell a product for them again because of who I've introduced them to from an investment standpoint, like, they're always going to want to work with me just for that one introduction that I could make each year for them, the person that kicks in $100,000 into, their Series A. So opening up your network to people I found is just incredibly valuable. And, for me, the network has come just from doing things I enjoy, with like-minded people in environments where chance encounters can happen. I put myself out there all the time. I'm at, boutique fitness gyms and CrossFit gyms every single day doing workouts and doing contrast therapy either at the house or places like Squatch or On It where, I'm going to meet 5 new people every single day at least to just continue building that relationship or that network. Other things I've done would be lists. I have VIP lists, I have investor lists, I have third-party service provider lists, I have product seeding lists, I have a full brand ambassador program list of micro creators. So, I have all of these segmented lists of like, hey, day one, like I can roll all of these things out for you. And again, that's just something that has massively differentiated myself from someone else that, perceives the number next to their name as just tremendous value. And, hey, $5,000 for me to post something because of this number next to my name. I really come into every relationship with, my business hat on of how can I provide ROI for the brands I'm working with.
Yeah. There's so many good nuggets of information on what you just said. But particularly the concept of just choosing to over deliver, especially when you're younger, a little bit newer, is just such good life advice for everyone in general. And the reason why I'm saying that is we had Wyatt on the podcast. We released the episode last week from Ice Barrel. Amazing dude. You introduced us to him. And it was so clear during that podcast that he viewed you as such an influential part of their company growth, particularly early on when it was just an absolute grind. He's making the barrels by hand. Things are getting fucked up. Like he needed someone like you. And to your point, you're like, well, no, I'm not going to do 1 post for him. I'm going to do 6+ posts and I'm going to over deliver on everything. And then from Wyatt's perspective, it's like, okay, well, if we make a decision on marketing spend, maybe we could pay Eric more, whatever. It's like, of course I'm going to give him more because he's doing everything for me, right? It's just such simple advice that I feel like everyone could be implementing into the way that they work with brands, clients, et cetera.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, under promise, over deliver. And how can you be memorable? How can you go really narrow and deep and be a thought leader in something?
Yeah.
And how can you differentiate yourself from what everyone else is doing in your space?
Yeah.
It's funny because when you're kind of on the other side of it, building a brand, you appreciate the ability to have someone who's very clearly demonstrating the value that they're getting paid to do. Sometimes it's tough to track, but it's like there's a clear like ability to provide value when you can say, hey, I've done this, and oh, by the way, I over delivered on all like the X's and O's of like posts on the story and posts on the feed. I just think from our experience with Noble, sometimes it's hard to be like, is this person like actually moving the needle? Like, are they moving the needle, or is this investment worth our time? And so I think for anyone listening who's starting a brand, it's important to find people who it's like, oh yeah, like that guy is like, we can't lose him. That's the type of value he's providing.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a big differentiation between fame and influence. Someone like Andrew Huberman has both.
Right.
Joe Rogan has both. There's people who have both, but some people just have fame from being on a TV show, for example, but they might not be a thought leader in their space, so that may not be a good product market fit for the brand they're working with. Where, someone who does shoe reviews and that's all they do is shoe reviews, and a shoe company wants to work with them, it's probably a really good fit. They're probably deemed as a thought leader in their space, even though they may only have 20,000 followers, and the person who is on TV has 250,000 followers. Like, product market fit and having influence is massively different than just a big number next to your name.
Totally.
The other thing too that has really helped me tremendously is identifying exactly who I am. So in my Instagram profile says I build brands. It's very clear what I do. And I think that's something a lot of people can get bogged down with. They try to build themselves as too many things. So figuring out like what is that one thing you want to be known for and you want to demonstrate to the world that is going to allow you to capitalize on opportunity, like that's the foot you should put forward every single day. And that's, really what I've focused on over the last 4 or 5 years is I build brands, and I'm going to do everything in my power to help you build your brand in this space of early stage wellness companies.
Yeah. Like you said with the hook is like 90% of what's going to determine if someone reads your piece of content or not. From the first 5 seconds they're looking at your profile, it's like, all right, Eric Hinman, fitness, I build brands. Okay, beautiful. I know this is what he does. Just very clean and simple, and be known for that thing too. I'm just curious, are there any red flags with brands where a brand is approaching you and you're like, wow, this is a really nice deal, but I don't think this is my niche for these reasons? Is there anything that kind of sticks out for you as a red flag with a brand that you wouldn't work with?
Yeah, for me, again, I know I can add the most value for early stage wellness brands.
Yeah.
So, typically, even if it's a really lucrative deal with a big brand, I know it's going to be a short-lived relationship because they're just using me as a billboard. There are some brands where I feel like, the product market fit could be enough that I could move the needle for them. But most big brands, it's just not my space. I want to be known for exposing my audience to the latest and greatest. I kind of want to be known as like the cool hunting for better for you brands, and, the cool new supplement brands, the cool new apparel and shoe and wellness apparel brands. So that's really what I run with. Again, just so I'm known for something. Like, I want to be really identified as, oh yeah, he's the guy who seems to identify the latest and greatest in the wellness world. That's really been my mojo. So I stick to that. And I know there's enough of those to do great business with just those. I don't need to take these deals that are really outside of my wheelhouse. And also, like, having that direct relationship with the founder. Like, I don't really deem myself to be an influencer anymore. I deem myself to be much more as a brand consultant. And, if, Nike might not be the best example, because I do think Nike is still pretty cool for a big company, but, like, they don't need me as a brand consultant. But someone like Ice Barrel, I can really help them. So that's who I want to work with. I want to feel valuable. That's really important to me. I don't want business to feel like a transaction anymore. I want to do business with my friends, and I want to feel super valuable in what I'm providing to them.
Yeah, really relate to a lot of the advice that you're giving. Harry and I have intimately experienced that too, because when we were starting the Twitter agency, working with all these healthy brands, we were at the point where we said, look, if this is niche enough to what we're doing and we think we can create good content regardless of the size, we want to try and work with them. And what we've learned is exactly what you said. If it's more of like a meat-based brand that's a certain revenue size, they don't have a overbearing CMO or copywriting team, and more importantly, they trust us to really create the best content. They're not going to overmanage it versus like a really large, greatly respected brand, but have really strong CMO, ton of different copywriters, a lot of auditing of the content that we're creating. We're at the point where we're just trying to turn those potential partners away because we know that we're not going to drive the results that we can if we work with that brand that's actually in our niche too. So I think that's a really good point of like knowing yourself, knowing the brands that you're actually going to drive the most success for, and be willing to turn away the ones that potentially want to work with you, but you know it's ultimately not the right fit too.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be micromanaged. I want to, be able to post what is authentic to me and what I feel my audience will respond well to, and not, just like copy that a brand is giving me. And I feel like the larger the company, the more they're going to give you guidelines of what to do. And then it's going to have to go to their legal team. And, it takes them 3 months to review it. And then it's like gone from fall to winter and I'm not mountain biking anymore. And that mountain biking piece of content really is no longer relevant. Yeah. So, I mean, I've been through this. I've worked with larger brands where it just wasn't a good fit. And I'm like, I can't wait for this fucking contract to be over with because, it sucks for me and I don't really feel like I'm providing very much value for them. So it just feels super transactionary. So yeah, I think that's the big point of this is like, I think most of us are going to have to write a surviving chapter where we are chasing, we are going door to door. It is very transactionary. But once you become a magnet, start running with things where you actually feel like you're adding massive value and you're doing business with people you really want to do business with. You want to like hang out with them in the sauna. You want to hit a workout with them. You want to go for a run with them. You want to go on vacation with them. Yeah. Those are the types of people that I want to do business with now because I just want my lifestyle to be one unified experience. I don't want to separate business and pleasure. I want it to all be the same.
Yeah. What does the DNA of that person look like for you? Like the founder who's coming to you being like, hey, Eric, I really want to partner with you.
So I love like-minded people that are also into similar things that I'm into, wellness, contrast therapy, better for you products. I mean, that's all of the people I'm working with now. I love passionate people. I love people that are just incrementally trying to push the ball forward. I like people that are they can put the blinders on and just focus on one thing at a time. I like people who are open to taking advice, open to conversation with others. People who are able to build amazing teams, people who are able to build amazing communities, that are able to cultivate communities, founders and brands that make you feel like you're part of something. Those are all really important to me.
Yeah, I think the traditional business sense is like, what do they say? If I don't want to grab a beer with this person, I'm not going to work with them. Your filters. If I don't want to sauna and do a ridiculous workout with this person, I'm not going to work with them, right? I was curious on the brand side. There's a lot of different ways to approach Instagram. Some people, like I think Cold Plunge is a good example of someone that crushes UGC content. They do super well. There's some people that just lead more so information. They don't really lead with the product. Some people lead with the product. Are there any trends or things that you're seeing with brands that crush on social media and build that organic following? Like anything in particular that they're doing that you think other brands could or should be replicating?
I think the things that do best are very unique stories to you. So, I mean, my example lately has been my journey, something where it's a very memorable first impression. So, I show a picture of when I was 27, 28 years old and drinking heavily and just kind of going through the motions and had a gut and was partying hard on the weekends and doing transactionary business on the weekdays to 43 where I'm, in much better shape and, just really kind of thriving in all aspects of life. And I mean, that immediate hook is like, whoa, like for someone who's 27, they think, wow, I want to look like that when I'm 43. Definitely. And for someone in their 40s and 50s, I think it makes them recognize that like you can maintain a high level of fitness into, your 40s and 50s. So those have done really well for me. That's a very unique story to me. And I can paint this picture in, a side-by-side photo with just age over each that is very compelling to both my audience and also a new audience. If someone sees it on the Explore feed, it's an instant first impression.
Yeah.
So that does well. Sharing things about, what I wish I knew when I was 27 that I now know at 43. Again, like a very unique story to me, and just kind of painting the picture of, what I was doing at 27 and what I'm doing now at 43 and the lessons I've learned from that. So those work really well for me. I mean, my thing is inspiration, it's knowledge, it's stories. Does controversy work? Yeah, it works really well. It's going to create massive engagement. The Instagram algorithm really favors content that is shared, content that is saved, because they want people in the app and they want people, using the app for long periods of time. So controversial things work really well. It's not my jam, but for sure that is one of the things that works really well. Again, for me, it's really, what is the hook that is unique to me, that is going to captivate my audience interest, and also like someone seeing it for the first time would captivate their interest. And then, kind of walking someone through a story. So like a day in a life video, that does well. How I consume 200 grams of protein, that would do well. Just these kind of unique things to me where there's an immediate hook of, hey, here's what you're going to get by consuming this content, and then walking someone through that story.
Yeah.
Who have you pulled inspiration from since 2010 till now, where you're at now, on the creative side of things? Like people who have, inspired you in content-wise or business-wise or anywhere else?
Yeah, it's changed a lot, honestly. So, 6 years ago, it was more the accomplished athlete, someone who has accomplished a lot in life. Like that's someone who I would tune into, or someone who is just providing like tremendous knowledge for me that I could consume and learn from. Lately, it's been more like creator-led people, people that may not have massive accolades in life, but they're incredible at creating content. And there's this whole new wave of people that are just really good at understanding the algorithm and understanding how to create really, really engaging content. And then there's like this other subcategory of people like Brian Mazza, Devin LeVay, Jesse Itzler, who, have an online persona, but also are building incredible in-person events around that in-person persona. They're cultivating community, they're building brands, they're investing in brands, they're, building big events like Running Man. Like those really inspire me a lot too. That's more of what I want to move towards, is I want to figure out how to create this ecosystem that allows, creators, influencers, athletes, anyone that has awareness on them to spin up their own businesses, their own products, their own services, and just putting the pieces together for that. Like, who is the amazing operator? Who are the 10 creators? Who is the fractional CFO? Who's the fractional CMO? Who's the growth agency, and just putting all those things together to spin up assets. That's what I'm really interested in the future.
Yeah, you think about the amount of value that you've created for those sauna experiences, even the events you're talking about, and the HPLT event that we were all at in Austin. I think the only criticism of the event was that people were having so much fun networking. That you could tell that they wanted to keep talking for longer. They actually didn't want to go back into the panels because the conversations were so good. But that's such an interesting concept of like having a very targeted event where you kind of put together all the right people in the room and like just watch what happens of them being at this event, doing difficult things together, sweating, sharing meals. Like how many partnerships and opportunities would come from something like that? I don't even think we can fathom how amazing that would be for people.
100%. And I mean, I do this every night. This is literally our sauna every single night. As I'm curating it with people that I think will all benefit from knowing each other, and then inviting like a few new people into the circle too, because I think that's important. Like, I want people to continue like entering this flywheel, because I want people to thrive. So I mean, every single night doing it, and then also curating these 20 to 30 person events. I love doing that. These founders only events where I'm putting, wellness, business, investors, creators, and founders all in an environment where their endorphins are racing and they're going to have really good conversations with each other. And then also kind of, this is more selfishly, I do think a great relationships will blossom from this, but I want to do some bigger events. I want to do some bigger, sauna, contrast therapy, music, wellness type events that get 500 plus people together. And, I won't be as instrumental in the relationships that blossom from that. But, I met some great people at Running Man. I thought Running Man was great. So I want to do some of those things in the future as well. But I mean, where I've really, really found success is, again, just like being unremarkable on a regular basis. There's nothing remarkable about having 5 to 10 people over to sauna each evening, but each evening over 365 days in 5 years, like those are some pretty magical relationships that have blossomed from just those 5 and 6 person sauna sessions. But again, I think of compounding consistencies a lot. Like, what can I do on a regular basis that isn't just like, some massive thing I have to set up. It's very easy to have a sauna at our house and invite a few people over every single night and just get new people into the mix and just kind of see what happens over time from doing that.
Yeah.
The value you're creating in a 10 by 10 hot 200-degree barrel is unbelievable.
Yeah.
What was your takeaway from Running Man? I'm curious because that's like kind of like first time that sort of event has been thrown on.
I loved it. I thought it was great. I like the format that it wasn't a race where you show up to compete with others and then, you have your beer and pizza after and then you scoot back to your house. Like, this was a 10-hour running clock, a 1-mile loop on I think it was a fairgrounds or a horse track of some kind. And, it encouraged people to run more than they typically would run because you just keep looking out there and there's people running all the time, like all day long.
Yeah.
So, and then like having that 200 plus person sauna they built there with all of the plunges was magical. It just created this. Everyone's endorphins are racing from the runner's high, from doing the contrast therapy. So it allowed for all of these chance encounters to happen. So I thought the setup was absolutely incredible. I love that format of just allowing people to run as far as they want, as fast as they want. And it really pushed people to run further than they typically would run. So, people were overcoming obstacles, which is going to give you a high and going to give you a memorable experience because you did something you had never done before. And, offsetting it with the contrast therapy there where you could take a break, but also in another setting where you're around people where chance encounters can happen.
Yeah.
So you meet a bunch of people. And they had some great speakers, great panels, food trucks. Very rustic. We were camping out in tents. I thought the whole experience was really cool. They just cultivated an environment where relationships were going to blossom. They didn't have to do any kind of salesy networking type events.
Definitely.
It was just like put a bunch of amazing people together in a field and get them high on endorphins and, great conversations and great friendships are going to form from that.
It's really a very simple concept when you think about it. And also in terms of running farther, when you have Ken Wright out there threatening to kick your ass, you're obviously going to run a little bit farther than you were expecting, right?
Yeah.
I really liked what you were saying about this concept of being willing to build in public and show a day in the life type content. It seems like this new trend is building in public for brands too. I think a lot about, Harry and I talk about the brand Midday Squares a lot, that healthy chocolate bar company in Canada. And they are like, the first hire they made out of anyone was a videographer. So they've had a videographer following them around, showing the fundraising process, the highs of the business, the lows of the business, them crying. It's super interesting. And then I almost contrast that with an Athletic Greens, where it seems like the brand itself is very product forward, yet you have people like the Hubermans of the world, the Rogans of the world, that are very trusted, that have a trusted audience where if you're recommending something, they want to purchase it from you because they know that you would only endorse it if it's something that you believed in. So I'm curious for you, like, is there a brand or like a playbook for, take Noble, for example, we're a newer brand and we're like, hey, who should we kind of model ourselves after? Is there anyone that would like immediately come to mind where you're like, these guys are just doing everything the right way, they're crushing it on social media, like look at their Instagram as like inspiration or the playbook?
For sure. So a lot of that matters in what are you starting off with? Are you starting off with $1 million? Have you raised capital? If you've raised capital, then, there's a different approach to how you would do it. If you're bootstrapping it, there's a different approach. If you have a big name like Huberman who is involved in it, that's a different approach. And they all work in their different ways. It's obviously worked really well for Athletic Greens, and I love what Midday Squares is doing, where they just kind of show all day, every day of what's happening and how they're building the company. Try Create's another great example of this, where Dan from Try Create is posting all of his financials on LinkedIn for anyone to see and showing how he's doing it. So that works.
Radical transparency.
Transparency works very well. Look at Sam Sulik, how fast he's growing right now, just kind of showing his life as a bodybuilder. So, I mean, what has generally worked for me is identifying 5 to 10 people to build a brand around. So what is the product market fit? So let's take Sisu Sauna, for example. Pete, I think I was the 5th or 6th sauna that he delivered. He flew to me in Colorado, and I got to meet him in person. He set it up, and I mean, instantly I was like, okay, like relationships matter to Pete. He's going to crush it. He's an awesome dude. And I introduced him to Brian Mazza, Nick Bear, Grant McCartney, Island Ninja, Neen Williams, pro skateboarder, and I think one other person I'm drawing a blank on. But we got those people saunas, and I'm like, these guys are, thought leaders in the wellness space. They're very followed for their, wellness side of their persona. And, I think that by getting these 5 people on board early on, it's going to generate a ton of awareness, because what do they say the magic number is? Like, you have to see something 7 times before it really registers. So between the 5 of us, a lot of people follow each of us that are the same. So if Jenny sees me posting about it, Brian posting about it, Nick posting about it, Grant posting about it, and Neen posting about it, all of a sudden there's some brand relevance. And, that's going to create this effect of, holy, like, I see Sisu everywhere. There must be something to it. Ice Barrel was the exact same approach, 10,000, exact same approach. So identify those 5 to 10 people who we can really build the brand around. And then, through that, A, there's going to be sales, and B, there's likely going to be these micro creators that pop up where, they're getting the sauna, they're posting about it. So you get this virality from all of those micro creators as well. And then, once you have enough data of, okay, 43-year-old men in Colorado are buying my sauna, then you hire someone like Austin Floyd at Attention Labs, and you have him double down on your ad spend once you have product market fit. You know who your audience is, you know how to market to, you know what content is working. Is it a direct response ad? Is it a day in the life? Is it, here's the scientific benefits of sauna? And maybe you have to test out different ads to figure out which ones hit the best, and some might hit differently with different audiences. But yeah, you hire a growth agency that understands meta, understands how to create various audiences to test ads on. And then you raise money once you've figured out how to spend 2 and make 4, and you just keep doubling down on that ad spend. That's the formula I've seen work time and time again with the brands I work with. And again, like, each brand is starting out differently. Like, some brands may have to be more grassroots in the beginning because, they can't afford those 5 people to build the brand around. They can't afford an Andrew Huberman, who is certainly going to move product, but he's also going to cost an arm and a leg because he provides massive ROI. He's very, very valuable. So, doing community events is what I always tell bootstrap brands to do. Like, go to an ultra race. Ultra races are great places to get in front of early adopters that, probably have some followings, but aren't looking for a ton of money to, promote something that is working really well for them. Go to these smaller community running events, someone like Endorphin Running, partnering with him, where I just talked to Tyler yesterday. He's doing 1,000 community runs in 2024. So getting on someone like his radar, where he's doing tons and tons of community events and, out in the community. And again, making sure that you have that product market fit, like someone like Saps Electrolytes. That's great after a run. That's great after a sauna session. A power lift is great after a workout. So figuring out when is your product best and in what use case and what audience, and getting it in front of them in person and then online.
Yeah, I think we've lost this ability to grow a business one handshake at a time. Like, and I get it, right? Paid ads, you can get this insane multiple from those ads, crazy ROAS, all these eyeballs on it. But even with Harry and I, when Noble was really young, and we hadn't raised capital, we were just going to a bunch of in-person events, and it's super memorable for a customer to be able to shake hands with the founder. They buy into you, they trust who I am, they like Noble, they like the taste of it. A lot of those early customers have been ordering on subscription for like 7+ months just from all those events that we did in the beginning. So we firsthand saw that it still works, and that should be a part of someone's business.
100%. I mean, business is hard. It sets and reps just like anything. It's like getting stronger. It's like, doing a sub 3-hour marathon and then a sub 240 marathon. It's hard, and it requires dedicated effort. But eventually you get that lucky break. If you're out there shaking hands, kissing babies for 2 years, eventually you meet that investor that is stoked on your product, and he's like, I want to put $1 million into your company. It literally just happens like that. But it's that 2 years of being out there, putting yourself out there, doing community events, meeting people that get you to that lucky place where all of a sudden you meet that right person.
Do you have any brand stories that stick out to you as ones that are just exceptional growth stories that you're like proud of, or just like kind of in awe that they happened?
I mean, Try Create is crushing it.
Really?
His numbers are just absolutely insane how fast he's growing that company. I don't feel as instrumental in Try Create as I do in someone like Ice Barrel or Sisu, where I was really early with them, and also like offered massive product market fit in those categories. 10,000 was a cool one to just kind of watch that. I want to say I was one of the first 300 customers when Keith, the founder, was still looking at all the emails coming through of who was buying their product. And, he emailed me back and said, hey, like, super cool. You bought my shorts. I see you're an Ironman athlete and now doing CrossFit. I'm actually doing Ironmans and would love to just jump on a call with you and learn about your experience with Ironman. And, maybe you could help me identify a coach for the season this year. So that relationship was cultivated just over me buying a pair of their shorts, him seeing my email come across, him looking me up, and then him reaching out to me, and then being able to help him identify some of those early people to build the brand around. So that's a brand where it's been really fun to watch it grow. Yeah, I mean, I could invest my money in the stock market, which, I do invest some in the stock market, but I would much rather invest in people where I feel like I'm adding more than just putting capital in and hoping it goes up. Right. I feel so much more fulfilled by watching a brand grow and knowing I had this small piece of it early on in helping them get that awareness out there.
Yeah, it's always cool too how like you're one decision away from being able to really alter the brand in a positive direction. Like something Harry and I are super proud of is one of our good buddies has a big regenerative ranch out in California, and he was just struggling for cash. He'd raised money, they were burning through cash quick. With these farms, it's so expensive. You need to buy more land to grow and scale the meat company. And then one of our Noble investors, we thought he would be a really good fit for Kev because he told us he was interested in regenerative agriculture. And then, lo and behold, a month later, we connect him. He cuts him a check for like millions of dollars, which is jet fuel to that business. And it's like, you're always just like one contact away. And there's so many different ways you could add value for people too. And it's like, we're obviously not getting paid to do that, but we know that will pay itself back over a long enough time horizon too. And you have to keep like taking punches like that.
You really do. And I mean, Austin is such an amazing place for that, where everyone here is so collaborative. So many people are, entrepreneurs. So many people are into health and wellness and single ingredient foods and just thriving and mixing business with pleasure. Like, I love people that do that have figured out how to do something they really love and then add value around doing that. And there's so many people here in Austin that are doing that. Colorado too. I mean, Colorado is filled with those types of people that want to be there, and they're not just going through the motions. They're defining their destiny. There's intention to their day, and there's passion and purpose behind their day.
You had mentioned product market fit a few times. How do you go about measuring that outside of just like looking at sales? Because there's obviously like so many ways you can think about it and kind of get a good feel for how your product is actually being received. But I think it's a tough one for new brands to really figure out.
It definitely is. I mean, again, it's that bullseye example of you're going to have to throw darts and they're going to be sprinkled all over the place for a bit until you figure out, oh, okay, the 48-year-old mom in California loves my supplement, my creatine gummies, and then like just narrowing in on that. But it takes just like throwing darts and trying different ads, trying different audiences before you find that. But the more you're out there in the community, the more you start to realize that. Like someone like Jordan from SAPS going to Running Man and seeing how many people were loving SAPS in the sauna, like there we go. There's an interesting, case study. There's more and more people, doing sauna. I would assume that spending money on ads targeting sauna users is going to be less than trying to, spend money on runners where everyone is trying to target runners. So there's some good product market fit for him of like identify sauna users and, get SAPs in front of people where they need it most and they're the most thirsty and it's going to quench their thirst the absolute most.
Yeah,
totally.
So yeah, some of it is just trial and error. Some of it is just being out there, talking to lots of people, getting in front of lots of different demographics and then seeing the ones who talk about it the most.
Yeah.
What trends are exciting to you in the health space? And the reason why I'm saying that is like in the sauna, we've talked about mastic gum, exogenous ketones, telemedicine. Like there's so many cool things that are popping up. Methylene blue. Is there anything else that you're interested in or you're seeing where you're like, I think these topics are a little bit more niche now, but they're going to blow up over the next couple of years?
The biggest trend for me right now is going back 200 years. It's friendships and relationships. I think that's the biggest wellness trend over the next 5 or 10 years is I'm thinking of it as multitasking without multitasking. Like so many of us have these glass balls we can't drop. I get it. We have families, we have careers, we have a mortgage where we have to work our job to be able to afford. But I think relationships with close friends is so overlooked as such a major form of wellness. So taking time to make sure that you're going to the run club, you're going to a communal sauna, you're doing contrast therapy with friends, you're having these communal dinners with small groups, you're hosting friends at your house. I think that's a massive wellness trend. And we all get caught up in, our day-to-day. I get it. But, I've had so many people in our sauna that leave saying, damn, I didn't know how much I needed that. And it's not so much like the sauna or the cold. It's like that conversation they had with 5 dudes in the sauna that they hadn't met. And they're like, man, I need to just hang out with friends more often. And I need to meet more people more often that are like-minded. So yeah, I think that is the wellness trend that I'm really lasered in on promoting is like, don't overlook how important friendship is, how important meeting new people is, and how important just doing these communal small group things are. Instead of going to the late night concert with 1 million people and you're not going to meet anyone or going to a party where, maybe you'll meet one person, having cocktails, like be really intentional with where you're going to meet new people.
It's funny you say that because I've kind of labeled 2024 as the year of the retreat. Like I've just seen more and more people start to pull these retreats together and they all look awesome. It's usually like 5 to 10 people going out and getting an Airbnb somewhere really cool and they just spend like a weekend together. And I think that's kind of almost a reaction to the isolation that happened a few years ago during COVID, but also I just feel like as we get older, we become so isolated in a lot of ways. So being able to spend a little bit of time on a weekend to go buddy up with some people who have shared values, who want similar things in life, it's like that could change your entire year if you do that one weekend.
For sure. I mean, looking back on 2023, all of my most memorable experiences were because of the people I was with. It was the founders only retreats. It was being here in Austin and meeting a bunch of new people. It was being at the CrossFit games and being a part of the Ice Barrel booth and meeting all the people coming through and doing contrast therapy there. It was the trip to Kauai with really close friends. It was all of those that are super memorable. It wasn't that, I made more money this year. It wasn't that I, bought a Tesla this year. It wasn't that we're renting a house in Austin. It wasn't any of the material things. It was all the people that I was with that are the most memorable things. And one of the things we did a couple years ago, Sarah and I created this gratitude jar where each night we'll write what we're grateful for, and then we'll have friends that come over also write what they're grateful for. And at the end of the year, we read all of those, and it's a reminder of how you want to design your life, you know? And a lot of it was just like, oh, fucking awesome dinner with Kate and Stu tonight. You know, we just had a great conversation with them. So, I mean, those were the most memorable moments, were the people that we were with.
That's cool.
Yeah, your perspective on relationships is spot on. And I know Chris Williamson has talked about this. Like, I think back to our dad's generations, guys in their, 50s, 60s, 70s. There's some abysmal statistics about how a lot of them will have like one friend or less, which is pretty sad to think about getting into that age and how close a lot of us we are with our friends and thinking about that going away. And I do think our generation will kind of be the antidote to that, either through, social media or actually doing connected things where it's not going out to a bar. It's like, no, let's sit in the sauna or do something difficult together and actually tell me about yourself versus like just making this kind of blanket small talk.
Yep. Can't agree more.
Yeah.
Austin's been an interesting experience for you. It's been cool to see you come down here. It's easy to watch someone on social media and see like this rapid life. They're doing so many things, but then you come and you see what you do in person. It is more impressive seeing you in person, doing all the networking, doing all the saunas. So I feel like this past few months, you've probably had a few takeaways on just being able to kind of like isolate and be in the right place. There's a book that Brett and I refer to all the time. It's like, put your ass where your heart wants to be. And I feel like Austin is just this, like the place for someone like you to be. So just have loved like kind of seeing how you've been able to work your way into the Austin scene down here.
Yeah. I mean, your environment is going to dictate so much of your reality. If I was in, North Dakota, some small town, like I couldn't make magic happen. I mean, it doesn't fucking matter if I advertise to my followers that I'm having a pickleball tournament this weekend. 3 people would show up. So your environment is so important to you thriving. And, I've recognized that now for a long time. And that was the reason why we went to Colorado, is because I wanted to be outside and I wanted to be with people that like to be outside, and I wanted to play in the mountains. And now coming here to Austin, where Sarah and I are at a point where we kind of want to sprint for a few years with this brand building side. And I know that being in Austin is probably the best place in the world that we could possibly be for that. And I also feel fulfilled. Like, so many people here are doing the exact same things that we're doing. So it's cool to be in a place where we're all doing similar things and everyone is open to collaborating and helping each other. And, everyone wants each other to thrive here, is the takeaway that I've gotten from Austin. And all of the events that I've been to, they're not like salesy network events. It's just like going to a pickleball tournament, doing a med ball volleyball tournament with Bill Murphy. And, his CPG events are so much fun. And just putting together 10 people to go work out on it, and opening up the sauna to people, from outside of our network to just book it on a Calendly link. And, all of that adds up over time and, again, creates opportunity, but more than anything, just leads to a fulfilling life. And that's the first checklist above anything else, is like, I want a fulfilling life. Obviously, we need money as well so that we can provide shelter and food and all of these fun things that we've created for ourselves in our modern society. But number one goal is like perfect day after perfect day. I want my head to hit the pillow at night and be like, that was a fucking epic day. Yeah.
Are there any moments in 2023 that you're like the most proud of out of everything? Just kind of like reflecting on the year, knowing that we're in December right now.
I'm very proud of Sarah and myself for coming here. I mean, because we have a magical life in Colorado. And, it also reminds me of, I had a pretty damn good life in Syracuse, New York, but I didn't feel like I was continuing to grow. I felt like I got to a place where I was more just going through the motions. And that's how I had started to feel in Colorado, in a way, is that like, life's great out there, but in a way, like we're starting to just kind of go through the motions in Colorado. And if we want to level up, we got to go somewhere that allows us to level up. And for what Sarah and I are doing, which is a lot of brand building, a lot of in-person events, online community building, getting more and more into long-form content, like Austin's the place to be to do that, but also still offers things we enjoy, which nature for me is super important. I love that Lady Bird Lake is right in the middle of the city. I still have access to cycling. There's some of the biggest cycling clubs here, the biggest running clubs here. In my opinion, some of the best gyms in the world are here. So I wouldn't go to a place just for the business opportunity. It would have to also check my is it fulfilling for me? Is it things I want to be doing every day? Are the activities I enjoy that allow me to thrive present with that place?
Yeah.
I'm going to throw out an idea. Let me know what you guys think. This time next year, we do another podcast on the exact same topic, talk about the brands that we've participated in building and throw out all the learnings that we took from the last year.
Great idea.
Like that?
Down.
On the same couch eating steaks.
So, yeah, we need.
Yeah,
all we
let's do
need
it.
is steaks.
All three of us on the same couch.
Yeah. Well, are we making an event happen?
Yeah, for sure. I
2024,
definitely want to do an
sweet.
event with you guys.
So much fun.
That would be so sweet.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah. I mean,
I think we can make some magic
Austin's
happen.
pretty
Yeah.
low-hanging fruit to do it
Yeah.
here, but I'm open to other things too. I really want to continue developing this two-way street between the mountains and Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
You know, I've had many close friends from Denver come and visit here, and now I want to create that same two-way street back to Denver. And I just want to see more and more people kind of going in between the two, because I think like here I've been overstimulated in the best way possible,
Yeah.
but I've been overstimulated. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah.
You know, it reminds me of, you know, New York City in a way, with all of the opportunities you have
Seriously.
to do fun things every day. It's like,
Yeah.
damn, do I play pickleball today? Do I go biking? Do I go join this run club? Do I
Yeah.
go to the CPG event? Do I go play volleyball? Like, what do I do? And there's a little bit less of that in Colorado. You're not being pulled in as many directions. And I think all of us need a certain balance in our lives so we don't burn out. So yeah, I want to be the conduit to, you know, Austin is the fast-paced place to go and build and create and like do all of it and, you know, live it up to the fullest.
Yeah.
And then I want, you know, all of you guys and Austin friends to come to Denver and just slow down for a little bit
Yeah.
and make something of all of those dots that we're collecting here in Austin. And, you know, let's just go for some rucks in the mountains, some mountain bike adventures, and just allow a little time and space for all of those things we've collected in Austin to marinate and then come back and make something of it. So I'm excited to see that develop. And I don't know if I told you guys or not, but Sarah and I are going to build a place here.
Yes.
And
Incredible.
we learned a lot in Colorado about how to set up a social wellness residential home. And we're going to take that to the next level here. So super excited about that. Should be about a year out.
It's going to be sick. I think you're going to have a huge market for that two-way street to Colorado, to Austin, because the one thing most people say about Austin when they move here, it's like, yeah, I could see myself here like a few years, but then I see myself leaving, or like maybe I get a place here temporarily and can always kind of call it home base, but there's no mountains, there's no beach, and that's kind of like the downside. There's none of that kind of quiet places that you would otherwise like go out and kind of like be still a little bit more. So
Yeah, solitary nature, there's something magical to it for sure.
Yeah.
And you can get nature here. Lady Bird Lake is amazing. And,
Yeah.
you know, I found like being on the water bike on Lady Bird Lake is really magical.
I gotta
where
get on
you're
one
not
of those things.
contending with
Those
any
things look
traffic.
sick.
Yeah, no one's stopping you on the run and saying hi. Like, you're just out there by yourself, and it's so peaceful. So I've enjoyed doing that. But yeah, I mean, Colorado offers a lot. The mountains are just magical. The space too, like, you know, I feel like the further west you go, the more vast it is.
Yes.
And that really just has this freeing, relaxing energy that, you know, I do crave sometimes. I'm certainly more extroverted, and I love being in the mix, and I love action, but having a little downtime I think is really good for our nervous systems. And again, like, we need time and space to make something from all of these people we're meeting and all of these conversations we're having and all of these, you know, things we're doing. Like, time and space is what allows it to come together and really make something of it.
Yeah, I think the lifestyle design that you and Sarah have is really cool and really admirable, because I think there's a lot of people where it's like, oh, I'm pigeonholed in Syracuse, oh, I'm pigeonholed in Denver. But I think you're like, well, no, let's experiment with Austin, see if we like it. Okay, this is cool. We have the resources to be able to build a house here, and no one's saying we can't split time. Like, why not just create the life that we want? I think a lot of people don't realize that they have that optionality too. They kind of pigeonhole themselves into certain places or pockets or jobs, things like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with Airbnb and, you know, with friends, I mean, I think we all have options at this point to go and spend time in other places and meet new people. And yeah, it's just being intentional with those places. Like, I never go on vacation anymore.
Yeah.
I go to places where I can get right back into the routine that I know allows me to thrive. And I also seek places where I know I can find people I want to enjoy being around. Like, I'm not really looking to go just lay on a beach.
Yeah.
I want to, you know, when I'm in Miami, I'm going there because I want to meet some cool new people.
Yeah.
You know, I want to meet the wellness scene there. And if I'm in LA, I have my places picked out for where I want to train and where I want to sauna and where I want to cold plunge and who I want to run with. Like those things are way more important to me than like going to some magical place and you know, just laying on a beach.
Yeah.
Were there any other cities that you guys were considering going to when you were thinking about it?
I love Venice, Santa Monica, Malibu, Topanga. Love that area, but California is just so expensive. I mean, to design what we want to design here, there would just be way outside of our price point. The land there is expensive. Taxes there are expensive. Space is expensive. And also it's like Austin's pretty damn easy to get around for a major city.
Yeah.
I mean, we're on the east side, so we're not really getting on the highways all that much. The actual city is not all that congested. It's really easy to go 6 miles from my house in the morning at 8 a.m. during rush hour to on it.
100%.
You know, and to go to Squatch 3 miles away, it takes 5 minutes. It's really, really easy to get around. So, yeah, I mean, a big thing I look at is I don't want to be in a stressful place, and whether you know it or not, traffic and trying to find that parking spot and, you know, fighting to get a reservation, like all of those things are stressors I don't really want to deal with.
Yeah.
So I like cities where it's more of just like ease in doing things. I look for those places. I can bike right from the house. It's only 4 minutes to get to Lady Bird Lake to go for a run. So everything is really accessible. But yeah, the other one that we were looking at was LA, specifically that Venice, Santa Monica area. I mean, other places I love would be another in the mountains, like more in the mountains, somewhere like Salida, Buena Vista, Steamboat. I love those places, and we were looking at those places, but we don't really participate all that much in Denver city life anymore because we're 20 minutes outside of the city, and we're close enough that, you know, people come to us and we've kind of created everything that we want at the house, and we have enough amazing people that come to the house that, you know, I scratch that community and people connection itch just by people coming over. But I do miss some of city life. Like I enjoyed my tenure being right in the mix of it in Rhino, in Denver. And Austin is going to scratch that itch where we're going to be right in the city. We're going to be, you know, we're going to partake in city life and be in the mix with all the community events. And we're going to do city life here in Austin to the absolute fullest.
Love it. That's awesome. I know a lot of people are excited for you to get here. It's great that you love it. It's great to have you part of the community. I mean, this conversation was awesome, dude. We always appreciate you being willing to do this. There was so much value that you dropped. You know, we're grateful to be friends with you, and we're just excited to see, you know, everything we can go on and do together, having you here now in town.
Two-way street. I love you guys and really appreciate the friendship that we've built.
Cool.
Unreal.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate you, brother.